At 4:28 local time, the Red Sea was quiet. Too quiet. A U.S. Navy MH-60R Seahawk helicopter skimmed just 200 feet above the waves, its rotors beating the humid night air. The crew of 3 thought they were on a routine maritime patrol, scanning for smugglers and keeping an eye on commercial shipping lanes. What they didn't know was that just a few miles inland, a Houthi strike team was setting up for something far more dangerous than a fishing boat with rifles. In the past year, the Houthis have been bold, firing drones and missiles at tankers, warships, and even at U.S. destroyers. But this time they wanted something different. Hitting a helicopter would be a propaganda jackpot. And they had just the weapon for it. A man-portable air defense system. A heat-seeking missile designed to swat down aircraft if they got too close. The Seahawk sensors were humming along as usual when the threat appeared. At first, just a faint infrared spike on the defensive display. Then the alarm, a missile launch. For the crew, it was the nightmare scenario, because a helicopter has no speed advantage, no altitude cushion. Against a shoulder-fired missile, survival depends on seconds, instincts, and countermeasures. The Houthis thought that they were about to score their first kill against American air power. What actually happened would not only humiliate them, but also expose just how outmatched they were when they tried to take on the world's most experienced naval aviators. The MH-60R Seahawk isn't just another helicopter. It's the Navy's flying Swiss Army knife. Built off the Black Hawk frame but tailored for maritime warfare, the Romeo model can do just about everything. Anti-submarine hunting, anti-surface strikes, electronic surveillance, search and rescue, and escort missions. If a carrier strike group is the muscle, the Seahawk is the eyes, ears, and claws. On that morning over the Red Sea, the Seahawk's mission was maritime patrol, shipping lanes through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, where the Red Sea squeezes between Yemen and Djibouti, carrying nearly 10% of the world's oil and commerce. That choke point has become one of the most dangerous stretches of water on Earth. Houthis had already fired drones and anti-ship missiles at container vessels. The U.S. Navy was there to keep the sea lanes open, and the Seahawk was part of that shield. Inside the cockpit, 2 pilots handled navigation and flight, while the sensor operator managed the suite of surveillance gear. Mounted on its nose was the MX-20 electro-optical turret. Think of it as a camera that sees day, night, and infrared. Under its belly, hardpoints carried sonobuoys and torpedoes when hunting submarines, or Hellfire missiles when stalking surface targets. And on its sides, racks for defensive flares and chaff dispensers, the last line of defense against incoming fire. This crew wasn't sightseeing. Every pass along the Yemeni coast was a calculated risk. They knew Houthi fighters had smuggled Iranian weapons, including MANPADS, heat-seeking missiles designed to home in on rotor heat signatures. That made every patrol more than just a flight. It was a game of survival, played seconds at a time. At 4:30 in the morning, the Seahawk's comm patrol snapped into a life-or-death moment. The warning tone in the crew's headset wasn't background chatter. It was the missile launch alert. Somewhere down below, near the rugged Yemeni shoreline, a Houthi team had just fired a man-portable missile, likely an Iranian-supplied 9K-38 Igla or its Chinese clone. To the crew, it didn't matter which model it was. What mattered was that a heat-seeking warhead was now screaming toward their helicopter at nearly twice the speed of sound. The Seahawk sensors caught the launch in time. The aircraft's ANAAR-47 missile approach warning system picked up the ultraviolet plume of the rocket motor. On the cockpit display, a sharp spike lit up in red. Direction, range, and closure speed. In the back, the sensor operator called it out. Missile inbound, port side. That gave the pilot seconds. Literally seconds to react. Helicopters don't have the luxury of outrunning threats. At just 140 knots cruising speed, the Seahawk is crawling compared to a missile. And flying at low altitude, hugging the sea surface meant there was no altitude to dive into. The only option left? Brake hard, deploy countermeasures, and pray the systems worked. What the Houthis didn't realize was that they just walked into a stacked deck. The Seahawk's countermeasure suite has been designed precisely for this kind of ambush. Flares, hot magnesium bursts could blind a missile seeker, making it chase the decoy instead of the helicopter's exhaust. Chaff could confuse radar-guided threats, though this one was infrared. And the crew had rehearsed this drill hundreds of times in simulators. Split-second muscle memory meant survival. As the missile closed in, the helicopter banked sharply over the water, rotors clawing against the heavy air. The Houthis were seconds away from thinking that they'd made history. Instead, they were about to realize just how far out of their league they really were. The Seahawk's cockpit instantly transformed from quiet patrol to combat theater. The pilot in command slammed the cyclic stick left, forcing the helicopter into a hard brake turn over the water. The co-pilot armed the countermeasure system with his thumb hovering over the launch switch. Then came the command no helicopter crew ever forgets. Flares, flares, flares! A cascade of white-hot magnesium streaked out from behind the Seahawk, each burning at thousands of degrees, hotter than the exhaust from the twin GE T700 engines. To the missile's seeker head, it looked like a sudden field of targets brighter than the helicopter itself. But would it bite? The sensor operator kept eyes locked on the threat. Missiles tracking, still closing. His voice was clipped, professional. Years of training compressed into 3 seconds. The pilots weren't flying for comfort now. They were flying for geometry, twisting the Seahawk's exhaust out of alignment with the incoming weapon. Every bank angle mattered. Every knot of speed could shift the missile's lock point by a critical fraction. Then came the telltale flash. The missile veered suddenly, nose chasing one of the flares that burned out in a split-second arc. Instead of slamming into the Seahawk's fuselage, the warhead detonated harmlessly in midair, showering fragments into the sea below. But the fight wasn't over. The crew knew Houthis rarely fire just one shot. "Keep scanning, they'll have another tube ready," the pilot barked. Now the crew had to decide, continue the mission or go on the offensive. The Seahawk wasn't defenseless. Wing pylons carried AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, and the sensor operator had already tagged the shoreline location of the launch. One button press could mean immediate retaliation. But there was more at stake than just survival. Engaging meant escalating. And escalation in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait could ripple far beyond this single skirmish. The Houthis thought they had pushed the Seahawk onto the defensive. What they didn't realize was that the helicopter's crew was already shifting gears, about to turn a desperate defense into a calculated counterstrike. The Seahawk skimmed so low over the water that its rotor wash carved ripples into the waves. The crew had bought themselves a few seconds, but the threat wasn't gone. From the cabin, the sensor operator's infrared turret swept the shoreline, locking onto the exact signature of the Houthi launch site. A group of fighters was scrambling to reload another missile tube, probably convinced that the American helicopter was an easy kill. That assumption was about to blow up in their faces. The co-pilot selected the weapon system, bringing a Hellfire missile online. Unlike MANPADS the Houthis relied on, the AGM-114 didn't need a lucky shot. It was laser-guided, accurate within a meter, and it could hit targets beyond the range of any shoulder-fired weapon. As the sensor operator lased the target, the crew felt the quiet hum of the guidance system sink. "Target locked," came the calm voice from the back. The pilot's thumb pressed down, and with a sudden roar, the Seahawk spat out a Hellfire. In seconds, the missile streaked across the night sky, a burning dart aimed squarely at the launch site. The Houthis never saw it coming. A blinding flash tore through their position, obliterating the very team that had just tried to write their propaganda victory. The crew didn't cheer. There wasn't any time. The Seahawk banked away immediately, ready for another launch from a different position. But in that single exchange, the balance had flipped. The Houthis had gone from hunters to hunted. What they failed to realize is that by targeting an American helicopter, they had handed over something far more valuable than a propaganda video. Every second of their launch, radar signature, infrared plume, communication chatter, had been sucked up by the Seahawk's electronic support systems. In trying to score a flashy hit, they had just given away critical data that would haunt them in every future encounter. The Red Sea doesn't operate in isolation. The moment the Seahawk's defensive system registered that missile launch, it wasn't just the crew who knew. Every ship in the U.S. task force got the alert. Aboard nearby destroyer USS Carney, operators saw the engagement unfold in real time through data link feeds. Within minutes, the strike group was shifting into a protective formation, ready for escalation. From the Seahawk's cockpit, the radio chatter confirmed, Carney copies, weapons tight, maintain defensive posture, UAVs inbound from coastline. The Houthis weren't done. While the first team had been wiped out, a second cell was launching drones from deeper inside Yemen. These weren't military-grade predators, they were improvised one-way attack drones. Cheap, slow, but deadly if they made contact with a vulnerable spot. In large numbers, they could overwhelm even modern defenses. The Seahawk now had two jobs at once: survive and guide the fleet's firepower. Its sensor suite picked up the drones as heat dots rising from the coastline. The crew designated targets and relayed coordinates to the destroyer. Seconds later, the Carney's vertical launch cells opened. A pair of SM-2 surface-to-air missiles ripped through the night, their exhaust trails visible even from the Seahawk's low perch. Impact was swift. Two drones vanished in fireballs high over the water. The Seahawk, still skimming at wave-top height, turned its turret to confirm kills. The remaining drones were left disoriented, their GPS links jammed by the strike group's electronic warfare systems. One tumbled into the sea, and another veered off toward an empty desert. The attempted ambush had collapsed. The Houthis thought they could exploit a gap, catching a helicopter low and slow. Instead, they triggered a chain reaction: a helicopter strike, a destroyer's missile volley, and the exposure of yet another layer of their drone network. But for the Seahawk crew, the adrenaline hadn't dropped yet. The pilot's knuckles were still white on the cyclic. The sensor operator's eyes burned into the infrared display. Because they knew one thing: every time the Houthis attacked, they learned. And every time the Americans responded, they sent a message. By dawn, the Red Sea looked calm again. The freighters kept steaming north, the tankers moved south, and from a distance it seemed like nothing had happened. But beneath the surface, the balance had shifted. The Houthis had attempted to make headlines by shooting down an American helicopter, but instead they revealed their tactics, lost equipment, and handed U.S. forces priceless intelligence. For the Seahawk's crew, survival wasn't luck, it was preparation. Every flare sequence, every hard brake turn had been practiced hundreds of times. The missile that nearly ended them also proved why training and technology matter. Helicopters may not outrun missiles, but layered defenses, from onboard flares to the destroyer's radar net, gave them a fighting chance. The lesson for the Houthis was even harsher. MANPADS are effective against low, slow aircraft, but only when the crew is unprepared or the defenses are down. Against the U.S. Navy, that window of opportunity barely exists. Worse, the data collected from their launch, the infrared plume of their missile, the radio chatter during setup, was now in American hands. That means next time, detection will come even faster, countermeasures even sharper, and retaliation even more precise. Strategically, the failed ambush reinforced why U.S. naval aviation dominates littoral zones. A single Seahawk didn't just survive, it turned defense into offense, drew fire away from commercial shipping, and guided a destroyer's missiles in the middle of the fight. That's force multiplication in action. The Houthis aimed for a propaganda value. What they created instead was a case study in overreach. And trying to humiliate the United States, they ended up broadcasting their own vulnerabilities to the world. So here's the real question. If you were sitting in that Seahawk cockpit and saw the missile warning light flash, what's the very thing you'd do? Drop flares? Dive low? Or hold steady and trust your training? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit the like, subscribe button, and share it with someone who loves military stories. If you want to go a step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and more. Stay sharp out there. Missiles don't wait. I'll see you next time.